I was filling in for my best friend on a blind date. I had on a red mink coat with black stockings, a princess cut hairstyle, smoky eye makeup, and a heavenly eye sticker right between my brows, making an explosive entrance. Just as I was about to belt out a thunder song to scare off my date, I noticed that the man in front of me looked incredibly familiar. He was wearing a white shirt with clean-cut facial features. He blinked in surprise when he saw me, then his eyes immediately softened into a smile. Oh my gosh! Isn't this the elusive CEO from my company? What's it like to have a wealthy best friend? My best friend comes from a wealthy family, but ended up with a college student as a boyfriend. Her family insisted on separating them because they were from different social classes and kept arranging blind dates for her. Since she wasn't keen on handling them, she turned to me for help. I shook my head and quickly replied, "Paige, I'm avoiding blind dates myself. What makes you think I want to deal with this?" Immediately after, transfer notifications started popping up one after another. My friend said, "There will be a generous reward once this is done." For someone like me who's just floating through life, this felt like a windfall. I retracted my previous message, grinned, and replied, "Don't worry, I'll make sure to handle this beautifully." So, in the middle of a summer day over 30 degrees Celsius, I had got the red mink coat my mom wore for her wedding. I put on a wig and did a lively, youthful makeup look. The finishing touch was definitely the heavenly eye sticker between my eyebrows. Looking at myself in the mirror, I almost wanted to go live and blast a song like Thunder to blow everyone away. As I left, I grabbed a pack of my dad's treasured soft Chinese cigarettes from the drawer. In my mind, I envisioned the scene. I'd cross my legs, toss a cigarette at the man across from me, and say, "Want a smoke?" I just didn't believe he wouldn't run away. The restaurant was adorned with glamorous crystal chandeliers casting a soft glow, with elegant music playing in the background, guided by a grinning waiter. I took my seat in the mink coat. I glanced at the time and realized I was early. I should have arrived half an hour late. To kill time, I played a bit of Miracle Nikki on my phone. Then came the sound of a chair scraping as someone sat her day down. Here he comes. I turned off my phone, stuffed my hands in my pockets to grab a cigarette, and looked up in shock. The man looked so familiar. He was wearing a white shirt, had clean-cut facial features, and upon seeing me, he was momentarily stunned, then quickly smiled. Oh my gosh. This man is the CEO who's always been elusive at the company. Leonard Saul, the second son of the Saul family. He's also Mamie Bell's direct superior. I quickly lowered my head, crushing and crumbling the cigarettes in my pocket. I admit, I was completely paralyzed. I wasn't embarrassed on the way here, but now I wished I could just find a hole to crawl into. After a moment of silence, he chuckled lightly. "Are you Paige?" "Paige is my friend's name. What do I do? What do I do?" There's no way out. I had to steel myself and squeak out, yes, I'm Paige. Is it too late to run now?" "Leonard Saul," he said, pushing over the menu with a slow, deliberate tone. "Take a look and see what you like to eat." I hesitated for a few seconds, then pushed the menu back. "You choose. I'm fine with anything." I have to admit, the CEO's composure is impressive. Can he really eat with a face like mine? While he was ordering, I discreetly texted my friend, "Paige, do you know who the blind date is? Are you trying to get me killed?" Waiting without a reply, I angrily turned off my phone and glanced sideways. Through the phone screen, I could see the CEO's face. He looked even better in person than in photos, exuding a rich and elegant aura. I doubt I'll ever be able to climb up to such a man in this lifetime or the next. He seemed to notice me glancing at him, turned his head to look at me, and smiled. "Paige, would you like something to drink?" Suddenly being addressed, I fumbled with my phone. "You came here by car, right? You shouldn't drink if you're driving." The waiter burst out laughing. I was mortified, my face turning red all the way to my ears. I buried my head lower and lower. He handed the menu to the waiter. "Do you find this amusing?" I was stunned, not expecting him to speak up for me. After all, I felt like a total joke. The waiter awkwardly apologized. I waved it off. It's okay. From now on, I decided to speak as little as possible. The food arrived shortly. I ate quietly, hoping this awkward blind date would end soon. Throughout the meal, I could feel his gaze on me. I was on pins and needles. It was like a tailor-made description for me. I seriously suspected the CEO had a thing for quirky behavior, but I had no proof. After the meal, I kept my head down and followed him out. When I heard the total for the bill, I gasped. It was so expensive. It could cover my living expenses for a month. The worst part was, I wasn't even full. As I was leaving, I thanked him and said goodbye. At that moment, it would have been rude not to leave. Just as I turned, he called out, "Let me give you a ride." "A ride? Where to?" "Are you taking me to the Kennan family's old house?" My heart was pounding. and I nervously clutched the mink coat. No need. I'm meeting a friend to go shopping. He chuckled, speaking slowly. You didn't make eye contact with me once. Are you sure you can go shopping like this? I awkwardly adjusted my wig and gave a dry laugh. I really do have plans. Really? He snorted. It seems Paige is not very satisfied with me. I was taken aback. Nodding or shaking my head didn't seem right. I bit my lip, trying to think of how to respond. Leonard Saul's phone rang suddenly. I was relieved the call came just in time to rescue me from this mess. The CEO's phone calls likely involved millions in business. I took a deep breath and tactfully said, "You should go ahead and handle your business. Don't worry about me." He pressed a button on his phone. His tone slightly gritted. "Then you take care of yourself on the way back." After that, he put his phone to his ear and turned to leave. I stared at his retreating figure in shock. Was he upset? Does this mean I ruined the blind date? Right. Yes. Back home, I took off my ghastly makeup and lay in bed, furiously calling my friend. "Paige, don't tell me you didn't know Leonard Saul is the CEO of my company. If I get fired because of you, I'll come to your place and tear you apart." "Paige, stop playing dumb." There was silence on the other end, but I could faintly hear the sound of kissing. I almost bit through my back teeth. "Paige, you treacherous woman." "Hold on, baby. Mamie, good Mamie. I only just found out it was him. Don't be mad. I've got some stuff to handle, but I'll definitely give you a satisfactory explanation on Wicket later." Looking at the call that was abruptly ended, I was fuming. You'd better really have something going on. A Wicket notification popped up with a transfer message. Seeing the amount, my anger instantly cooled down. After receiving the payment, I shamefully smacked my left hand with my right. Serves you right for being greedy. I suppose it's not entirely my fault for being greedy. I'm just an ordinary country kid. After graduating from college, I chose Los Angeles. At first, I juggled multiple part-time jobs each day. Later, I unexpectedly got into this company, surviving the internship period through a rigorous election process. Once settled, I rented a two-bedroom apartment and brought my parents from the countryside. I intended for them to rest comfortably. Unfortunately, my parents said they couldn't stay idle after a lifetime of work. Recently, they secretly started working at a factory. I knew it was not that they were restless. They just didn't want to burden me and wanted to save up a bit more for my dowry. At 7 a.m., the alarm went off on time. What's meant to come will come. There's no avoiding it. I got up fully armed, with a hat and mask, heading to the company to continue as a small-time worker. I hoped the heavens would spare me from encountering the big boss. Clocking in, chatting with colleagues. After some intense operation, the manager came over to inform us that the marketing department would have a Monday meeting shortly. As expected, the heavens don't favor me. Colleagues began whispering, the CEO making his first appearance at a meeting could mean layoffs. I grew increasingly anxious. Although I wore makeup yesterday, it wasn't a face swap. I couldn't attend the meeting with a hat and mask on if I faced him directly. He definitely recognized me. I'd probably get scolded and fired for deceiving him and harming the company's image. Sob. I'm at a loss, thoroughly embarrassed. I buried my face in my arms, lamenting. After much consideration, I decided to ask the manager for a half-day sick leave. Better to avoid the situation if possible. As I got out of the elevator, I saw the manager chatting with the new CEO, Leonard Saul. In the hallway, I did a 360-degree spin and desperately pressed the elevator button. "Mamie," the manager called out to me. I felt like exploding on the spot. I pressed my hat down and walked over. "What's up, Gordy? Why are you so bundled up?" Gordy asked, handing me a file. I cursed inwardly. How can you still recognize me? Before I could speak, Gordy continued, "Leonard Saul, are there any special requirements for this batch of interns?" I was speechless. Why give intern files to me and not the HR department? Leonard Saul chuckled. "It's not just about looking energetic. Why does that sound odd?" Gordy waved me off with a question mark on his face. "Take this file to the HR department as Leonard Saul requested." "Got it. Run." What's it like to have a friend who's a total troublemaker? I didn't have to pretend to be busy because the boss had something come up, and the regular meeting was cancelled. I breathed a sigh of relief. During lunch break, some colleagues were eating while others were napping. I ordered a bowl of wonton noodles, and just as I received the delivery, my friend started bombarding me with phone calls. I covered my phone and stepped outside, mocking her. "No more sweetness. Do you still have time to call me?" My friend's voice on the other end was frantic. "Mamie Belle, what did you do?" "Grandpa just called me, saying Leonard Saul is very pleased and wants to meet me at a cafe in an hour." I was stunned, thinking maybe the boss really was interested in me, but then I realized he was probably just trying to get back at me for embarrassing him with my outfit yesterday. My friend was crying dramatically. My boyfriend is so mad. He wants to break up with me. You have to fix this. I was furious, stamping my feet. Miss C, give me a break. If I go, I'll surely blow my cover. I think he's deliberately retaliating by asking you out again. No, it's about you. I don't care. I don't care. You're the one who met him first. If you don't go, who will? If Leonard Saul gets angry and comes to my place, we'll both be exposed. Desperate, I said. Are you trying to drag me down with you? Tage, I really owe you from a past life, and now I'm paying for it. What a mess. I advise everyone, never lie. It takes 100 lies to cover up one. There was no time to go home and change. I ran to the nearby mall and bought a random outfit. I swapped to a sun, had a mask, and hurried to the cafe. Thankfully, it was close to the office, or I'd. At the cafe, I looked around and saw the man I just met this morning. He was wearing a white short-sleeved shirt that showed off his toned, fair arms. As luck would have it, he looked up and our eyes met. He smiled. I walked over and sat her down, quickly switching to my Ellie persona. Leonard Saul, you took time out of your busy schedule to meet me. Leonard Saul took a sip of his coffee and answered without addressing my question. Has Mr. Kennan been discharged from the hospital yet? What? Why are we talking about this? I improvised. He should be soon. I almost blurted out. How should I know? But caught myself in time. He smiled, dragging out the final sound of his O, and then pointed to the coffee. Don't like this one. Want to try something else? My breath caught, and I knew I had to handle this quickly. Before I could think, I slammed my hand on the table. Instantly, everyone in the cafe turned to look at me. I waved my hands and lowered my voice. Look, I'll be honest. I really don't want to go on a blind date. Besides, someone like you must have no shortage of admirers, so I hope you can understand and keep this a secret from Grandpa. He crossed his arms with a cryptic smile and teased. How do you know I don't have any? If you truly aren't interested in a blind date, then I apologize for the intrusion. Hearing that, I was thrilled and said, thanks, Leonard Saul. Bye-bye. See you around. I quickly got up and headed for the exit. Phew, I'm starving. If I don't eat soon, I'll be late for work. I enjoyed a blissful evening off and went back to work with a smile. But the next day at lunch, I knew I had jumped the gun. This guy asked me out again. What on earth is he up to? I was fed up. I yelled into the phone, Paige, this is the last time. At the hot pot restaurant, steam was rising all around. I stood next to him, flaring. He smirked and said, sit down, Tage. To be honest, I really wanted to throw my mask, hat, and sunglasses into the pot and then grab his face, making him see who he's on a blind date with. But I didn't dare. It was my fault for lying in the first place. I kicked a chair and sat her down. Straight to the point, Leonard Saul. I was clear with you yesterday. Why did you ask me out again? I'm seriously losing my mind. Leonard Saul put a slice of lamb into the bowl in front of me and said in a deep, magnetic voice, I just want to know what exactly you're unhappy with about me. I was at a loss for words. High education, handsome, wearing a Patek Philippe watch, driving a Rolls Royce, and decked out in luxury brands. What could I possibly dislike? What I dislike is having to be here instead of you. I'm just a stand-in. Okay. Under his intense gaze, I looked down and fidgeted with my hands. You're great. I just don't measure up. Not true. He stood up, knelt beside me, and said in a coaxing tone, I like the best. I looked at him, my heart racing and my mind going blank. Could he really be into someone like me? I swallowed hard and tentatively asked, Leonard Saul, do you usually like watching chaos? Leonard Saul's face darkened instantly, and he stood up, staring at me. Then he suddenly leaned in close. I panicked and covered my face. I could feel him very close, and he even blew warm air into my ear. What are you thinking about all the time? His voice was low and teasing. By the time I collected myself, he was already back in his seat. I rubbed my itchy ears, cursing myself for being so pathetic. The hot pot restaurant was indeed hot. I could feel sweat starting to bead. Leonard Saul seemed to be in a good mood, enjoying his food. I patted my hungry stomach, feeling bitter. He smiled and looked at me. Are you sure you don't want any? How could I eat? Wearing a vest, how could I? I turned my face away and said stubbornly, nope, fasting. He looked away, took a bite of meat, and nodded with satisfaction. Delicious. I was holding back. On the third day at lunch break, I anxiously waited for Paige's call at the office. Buzz, 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 ha ha ha. As clever as I am, turned off my phone. I was so hungry. I lost weight over the past few days. After a busy afternoon, I glanced at my watch. There were still 30 minutes until the end of work. I took off my mask to get some fresh air and turned on my phone. I saw several 60-second voice messages from Paige and a crying emoji. Do you think I listened? After deleting them, I laughed so hard I almost fell over. When I looked up, I met Leonard Saul's gaze at the door. I quickly looked down, put on my mask, and my heart started pounding. My legs were shaking. He hadn't left yet and was in the marketing department when did he arrive. I was so embarrassed. I tried to act calm and glanced up again, only to find that he had already left, disappearing without a trace. I slid over to Carol Fitzgerald's desk and asked, "Carol Fitzgerald, when did Leonard Saul come by?" She touched up her lipstick and said, "He just came to pick up a document and then left." I was confused. What kind of document would require him to come in person? Carol Fitzgerald checked her reflection in the mirror and said, You know, now that you mention it, it is odd. Maybe he came to see if someone in our department caught his eye." She looked at me confidently. Could it be me? I heard age gap relationships are trending. I was awkwardly silent for a moment and finally pointed out, "Carol Fitzgerald, your son is already 5. Ha ha ha, I almost forgot." In the supermarket, after a shower, I went downstairs with a shopping bag, waiting for discounted ingredients to prepare dinner. Suddenly, I heard a surprised voice behind me. "Oh, isn't this Mamie Belle?" I stiffened at the sound. Viola Owen, with her boyfriend, walked up to me, looking at me with disdain. In college, Viola Owen and I were roommates. She always looked down on me and bullied me. She framed me for stealing her makeup and spread false accusations on campus forums. The outrageous part was that everyone sided with her, and I became the campus joke. I couldn't believe she hadn't changed at all over the years. Viola Owen pointed at the bag I was holding and taunted. "No way. After all these years, you're still struggling. TSK, TSK, TSK. If it's really that bad, should I have my boyfriend introduce you to an older man? As long as you listen obediently, have a couple of kids, you won't have to worry about food and drink." Done. I rolled up my sleeves, ready to explode. Suddenly, a man's hand landed on my shoulder and pulled me into a hug. I looked up, ready to fight back, only to see it was Leonard Saul. I felt like a puppet as Leonard Saul dragged me to the parking lot and shoved me into his luxury car. I was stuck, unable to escape. He tapped the steering wheel a few times and said, "Address." My nerves got the best of me, and I blurted out, "Eastern Garden Community, Building 25, Room 703. Luckily, I reacted quickly and added that I was going to a friend's house. I huddled close to the car door, gripping the seatbelt tightly, and my mind started racing. How much did he actually hear from what Viola Owen said earlier? What if he asks me about it later? How am I going to explain that? The car sped along in silence. This was seriously messing with my head. Eventually, I couldn't take it anymore and tentatively asked, "So, how did you end up at the supermarket? Did you hear that crazy woman rambling on earlier?" Leonard Saul glanced at me before turning his gaze back to the road. "Did you want me to hear it or not?" Avoiding his eyes, I pressed my face against the car window and stayed silent. I felt like I'd lost my cover. The word foolish probably fits me perfectly. Outside the car window, raindrops began to fall. I unfastened my seatbelt and tentatively said, "Well, I'll get going then. Thanks for the ride." Leonard Saul leaned back in his seat, looked at me, and gave a cryptic smile. Even though he said nothing, it felt like he said everything. I swallowed hard as I got out of the car and was about to sprint away. "Mamie Belle," I frowned. See, he heard me. He was going to make things worse. I ran as fast as I could, but why did my legs feel so weak? Why couldn't I move? Leonard Saul got out of the car, opened an umbrella, and walked over to me, gently tucking a wet strand of hair behind my ear. He smiled and said, "Looks like you didn't know Paige was grounded yesterday." I was shocked. "So you knew yesterday that I wasn't Paige?" He tilted his head and smirked. "I see all the resumes that come through the company, and there's a 1-inch photo of you on file. And also, Mr. Cannon wasn't hospitalized at all. He played golf with me yesterday." My mind flashed back to the events at the restaurant, coffee shop, and hot pot place, and I nearly had a heart attack. "So you knew from the beginning and deliberately didn't reveal it. You." He snapped his fingers against my forehead and said sternly, "So it's okay for you to lie to me, but I can tease you a little." Damn, what a devious man. Leonard Saul leaned in closer, his eyes filled with amusement. I recoiled in shock and asked, "What are you doing?" He placed his hands on my waist and leaned in, saying, "You know my family is pressuring me to get married. I think you're quite suitable. What do you think?" "I don't care what you think. I want to know what I think." I threw my yogurt on the ground and slapped his face. "Leonard Saul, snap out of it." "Mamie, is this handsome guy your boyfriend?" A voice came from behind us. It was my mom. I shook my head, trying to explain. Hello, I'm Leonard." "Oh, wonderful. Leonard, come upstairs. I've just bought a lot of groceries." My mom refers to the heir of the Saul family as just Leonard Saul. "I'm toast. thanks, at my house, at the dinner table. I looked at my mom, who had a beaming smile, and my dad, who looked very pleased, and then Leonard Saul, sitting upright beside me. My dad stood up and rummaged through a drawer. I'm sure I had a box of Jonwa cigarettes here. Where did it go? In my mom's fur coat pocket. My dad turned and quickly handed me $100, saying, go downstairs and get Leonard 2 boxes of good cigarettes. I'm eating dinner, Dad. Leonard Saul took my left hand and said with a smile, no need, Uncle. I don't smoke. My face flushed bright red. I tried to pull my hand away, but he held it even tighter. Is he serious? Leonard Saul suddenly turned to me and said, I didn't bring a gift this time, since I was in a rush. Next time Mamie brings me over, I'll definitely make it up to you. I caught the underlying meaning of his words and was left speechless, but my parents were overjoyed and extremely satisfied. Oh, Leonard, just being here is enough. You don't need to bring anything. My dad agreed. Yes, the house has everything. If you want anything next time, just let Mamie Belle know. Leonard Saul agreed with a smile, seeing them so happy and content. I closed my eyes. I'm the real fool here. I expected my mom to ask typical nosy questions about family and business, but she didn't. After Leonard Saul left, I washed the dishes while asking my mom about it. According to her, having someone interested in you is already great. Who am I to be picky? Sigh. My mom confirmed. About half an hour later, a message popped up on Wicket. Leonard Saul, I'm home. Leonard Saul, consider what I told you and give me a reply. I remembered earlier when he had me pinned against the wall, whispering sweet nothings in my ear, biting my shoulder, and coaxing me into adding him on Wicket. My face flushed red and hot. To say I wasn't moved would be lying, but aren't wealthy families all about social standing? Isn't Paige a perfect example? I'm going crazy, completely crazy, but I remained rational and decided I'd take a leave tomorrow and hide for a few days. The next morning, I went to the manager's office to request sick leave. To my surprise, Leonard Saul was there too and, citing work reasons, insisted I accompany him to the president's office. Taking sick leave without being sick. Leonard Saul pushed me into the boss's chair and stared at me. Is it because I teased you the other day and you're upset? I wasn't exactly upset. I was in the wrong from the start. I shook my head, remaining silent. He loosened his tie with one hand, his Adam's apple moving slightly, and his gaze darkened. So, you're avoiding me? I lost my composure. His actions hit a nerve. I realized I was not only materialistic but also damn attracted to him. Are you saying you don't have any feelings for me? He leaned close to my lips. Do you want to be with me or not? Yes. Yes, I was tempted and closed my eyes. Leaning in, the door suddenly opened and closed again. Why do these embarrassing social death moments always happen to me? Leonard Saul, did you push another arranged marriage? The tone made it clear it was his mother. I stood up quickly and was done when I saw his mother's face. Leonard Saul's mother came excitedly and shook my hand. Oh my, what a coincidence. I didn't expect you to be my daughter-in-law. She then turned and patted Leonard Saul. You naughty boy, not bringing your girlfriend home. I thought you were gay. Wait, is that something I'm supposed to hear? Leonard Saul chuckled and said, I didn't have a chance. Do you know each other? Not really. Just recently, I saw her in a luxury car, being scammed by an old man on the street. She was about to transfer money via Wicket, but the old man claimed he only accepted cash. I stepped in, stared the old man, and gave him $300 to settle the matter. She offered to treat me to dinner, but I declined as I was in a hurry. I didn't know this sweet and naive woman was Leonard Saul's mother. I followed Leonard Saul and his mother out of the company, pretending to report on work. In the restaurant, his mother fed me constantly and kept pushing the idea of marriage. This wasn't how I imagined it at all. Where were the talks about social standing and the evil mother-in-law? After his mother left, Leonard Saul and I went back to the company. As we neared the office, I asked him to drop me off by the roadside. To avoid office gossip, I requested to keep our relationship a secret. Leonard Saul leaned in, his breath heavy. If I agreed to keep it quiet, don't you think I deserve a little reward? I quickly kissed his face, and as I was about to get out of the car, he pulled me back. I looked at him in confusion. Leonard Saul pointed to his lips and said slowly and softly, a kiss, right here. My heart raced, and I tried to stay calm. No, what if someone sees us? He smiled, gave me a quick, tender kiss, and ruffled my hair. Go on, and wait for me after work. Sweet romance. Finally it's my turn. As the end of the workday approached, Leonard Saul and his assistant brought coffee and desserts. I was shocked and kept blinking at him. Wasn't it supposed to be a secret? He gave me a small nod, and I felt relieved. With no concrete progress, I didn't want office gossip. My colleagues whispered excitedly, and Carol Fitzgerald took the lead. Leonard Saul is in a good mood. Could it be that he's dating someone? He was silent for a moment. Yes, my girlfriend said it should be kept confidential in the office. Colleagues gasped. OMG, could it be someone from our department? I felt my heart leap into my throat. Leonard Saul shook his head and walked towards the exit. Just before leaving, he turned around and teased, Mamie Belle, my mom said she wants me to bring you home for dinner sometime. Let me know when you're available. Perfect. The last time I felt this speechless was during the previous incident. On that Saturday, when my friend's grounding ended, she came over to my house immediately. She burst into tears, complaining about how Leonard Saul was so manipulative and had sent someone to her grandfather's place. She also said her little puppy brother had cheated on her while she was grounded. I was about to offer some comfort when she said, it doesn't matter. I found an even younger and cuter one. 666. Finally, she boldly demanded that Leonard Saul and I take her out to dinner because she was our matchmaker. I clapped my hands and feet in admiration for her shameless spirit. Leonard Saul suddenly sent a wicked message, saying he was on his way to my house. I immediately hailed a taxi, went downstairs, and shoved Paige inside. I'm going on a date with my boyfriend. Mamie, you're neglecting your friends for love. Thanks to you, master. I thought it would be a simple dinner date, but when I opened the door, the room was packed with people. I had never seen so many people in my life. Just as I was about to apologize for entering the wrong room, I saw Leonard Saul's mother coming over with a big smile on her face. Before I knew it, I was surrounded. Leonard Saul's relatives were all grinning from ear to ear, showering me with bread and Villapassoni after another until my hands were sore from receiving them. I finished the meal in a daze, and then trudged back home with a heavy bag on my back. As I was getting out of the car, Leonard Saul leaned in and rubbed his cheek against my neck, saying, Aren't you happy to meet my family? No, I quickly replied. It's just that the time felt short and a bit unreal. He looked up with a self-deprecating smile. If you knew how much I like you and how badly I want to marry you, you wouldn't think that way. He then pulled me into a tight hug. Mamie Belle, do you believe in love at first sight? My mouth twitched and my eyelid fluttered. I didn't expect you to have such peculiar tastes. He stiffened for a moment. What are you thinking? The first time I saw you, you were slacking off and dancing at the office. Me, alright, enough already. I'm getting annoyed. My parents came back that evening, so Leonard Saul and I had to cancel our weekend plans on short notice. The next morning, I woke up to an unusually loud commotion outside. With my hair in a disheveled mess, I went out to see what was going on. Turns out, Leonard Saul was so obsessed with me that he brought his family over with bags and boxes to formally propose. I went over to greet the elders one by one, and then stood next to Leonard Saul, playfully pinching his side. Leonard Saul held my hand, looked down, and said, A life without being pressured to marry isn't complete. There was some truth to that, so I fell silent. With my family's urging, Leonard Saul and I got our marriage license on Monday and set a wedding date. In adult relationships, it's just one last step. When I got to work, my colleagues immediately started asking me for wedding candy. I was surprised. How did you find out? Carol Fitzgerald said. Oh, didn't you see the company group chat? I pulled out my phone and checked. The marriage certificate photo was posted in the group, and Leonard Saul had sent out a bunch of red envelopes. I turned and went upstairs to find Leonard Saul, wondering why I didn't get a personal envelope. But as soon as I walked in, the man scooped me up and started kissing me until my legs went weak. He put my clothes aside, slipped a huge diamond ring on my finger, and said in a hoarse voice, If Leonard is going to marry you, he's not going to hide anything. Well, now he's got that domineering CEO vibe. Post-wedding epilogue. After the wedding, Leonard Saul and I planned a honeymoon trip. The day before we left, Paige mischievously packed a set of very revealing pajamas and some boxes of unknown brand of ultra-thin products into my suitcase. I blushed as I pulled the items out, threw them at her, and gave her a good talking to, calling her filthy and full of dirty thoughts. But not long after, I regretted it. Leonard Saul and I had booked a seaside room. On the first day, we were so exhausted from playing that I curled up in his arms and fell asleep. The next day, we watched a movie together and then went to sleep again. I began to wonder if it was because I wasn't attractive enough for him to be excited. I should have brought those pajamas after all. On the last day, I was packing up and found the unknown products had fallen out. Damn it, I thought I'd taken them out. Leonard Saul picked them up before me, with a knowing smile. He picked me up and tossed me onto the bed, saying, No wonder I felt like you were unhappy. Are you blaming me? I pressed my hands against his chest, blushing furiously, and denied it 3 times. I didn't. It wasn't me. It was Paige. Leonard Saul gave me a look that said, Don't explain. I don't believe you. He chuckled softly. I was worried you'd be too tired to move. so I didn't touch you. Looks like it's time to take care of this now. He shoved the box into my hands and said, "Open it." Then he leaned down and kissed me deeply. Relax. Just think of it as a world tour. Leonard Saul, you little tormentor. This story is now complete. Feel free to subscribe to the channel for the latest content, with a new novel update every day.